Just earlier this year, I made a video comparing a bunch of different USB microphones, some of the most popular ones in fact, and since then many new microphones have surfaced, and I simply can't ignore these amazing offerings. So in this video, I will be featuring some new microphones, some old microphones, and some that I already knew existed and that were on the market, but I never got to actually talk about. Now, keep in mind that I've already reviewed all of these microphones individually on this channel, and links to those are going to be down below in the description. But in today's video, we will be exploring the full comparison between all of these and just see which one makes the most sense for what types of people. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Before we continue, I just wanted to remind you that we have a Twitch channel where we stream every Friday and Saturday from 8 p.m. and to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, so why not go ahead and drop a follow? And also don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and also make sure to check out the merch store. There's plenty of black and white sweetness to choose from up there, so go ahead and check that out. And then make sure to take a look at the podcast as well, as the podcast always goes live every Wednesday and Sunday. And with that said, enough rambling, let us get straight into the video. And in today's video, I'm going to be introducing each microphone from cheapest to the most expensive one. And then I'm going to be doing a sound test with some sound rejection commentary as well. So with that said, let's go ahead and begin. And the first microphone on this list is the Razer Siren Mini. This is a condenser microphone. This little microphone isn't only the smallest of the bunch, but is quite a powerful microphone too, just for what it is. It's got a plastic build with a weight base, and that's about it. You won't find any buttons, any knobs, or any form of customization, and not even a headphone jack to be seen around here. It's meant to be a very simple microphone to use, with only a micro USB port to look out for. Now, this microphone retails for only $50. Next up is the HyperX Solocast. HyperX's response to the Siren Mini, I would say. This is a condenser microphone. This microphone is built better, it's heftier, and has a base that you can adjust to your liking. It just can't be raised, really. But you can even rotate it around if you really wanted to, but I don't see why you would want to. It has a capacitor mute button on top and a USB-C port on the back. This microphone is very nice and is one of my top options for the price tag. This microphone retails for only $60. Next up is a very good microphone that offers a big jump in build quality and even sound quality. And this is going to be the Fifein K690. This is also a condenser microphone. This microphone is built entirely out of metal and it's very hefty. This microphone is built exceptionally well for the price. You will find a microphone gain knob and also a headphone gain knob and a polar pattern switch. You will also find a mute switch, a headphone jack, and a mini USB port on the bottom in this case. This microphone has been an incredible performer through and through, and since it was first sent to me, and it retails for only $100, so it's not only a great value, but it is just a great price overall. Next up is going to be the Samsung GTrack Pro. If you watched my review of this microphone, then you already know that I was overwhelmingly impressed with this microphone. It is a condenser microphone that has so many things packed in. This is built entirely out of metal, and heavy metal for that matter, even black metal if you get that joke. And this is the best built, strongest microphone with the most features built directly onto the outer shell. You will find a headphone jack, a headphone gain knob, obviously a mic gain knob, an instrument gain knob as well in case you want to connect an instrument to it, a polar pattern switch, a mono to stereo switch. You're also going to find a 3.5mm headphone jack and a 1/4-inch instrument port and a USB Type-B port on the bottom. This microphone has everything built onto it, and it is unlikely that you're going to need to use anything else with it, I mean besides a computer. And it is going to be quite incredible. This microphone retails for only $130. And following up, this is a very popular microphone, the blue Yeti X. This is also a condenser microphone, and it looks absolutely beautiful. This is another microphone that is built very well, with some chrome accents around the base and near the capsule itself. It looks very classical yet modern at the same time, thanks to its lighting on the knob and stuff like that, and I absolutely love the look. This microphone has a mic gain knob, an LED indicator for it, a headphone jack, a polar pattern switch, and a mini USB port. This microphone also has a lot of software support where you actually get a lot of customization options through Logitech's Blue Voice feature, but you can also just download Blue Voice off of Blue's website on its own if you wanted to, and just so much more. This microphone retails for $160 and you get options like an EQ, compression, and just way more than that. It is actually a pretty decent value when you look at it that way. Next is the HyperX Quadcast S. This microphone is the most gamery looking of the bunch. This is a condenser microphone with beautiful RGB lights surrounding the built-in pop filter and is highly customizable. This microphone does feel like it is built of metal, but it is very lightweight nonetheless. It's got a soft touch volume knob on the bottom and a capacitive mute button on top, which is also soft touch by the way, which makes it pretty nice to use. You will also find a polar pattern switch, a headphone jack, USB-C port, and it comes with a built-in shock mount as well, and not to mention a nice little stand. Now, this microphone also operates under its own software, but there is no EQ options within that software, so do keep that into consideration. This microphone retails for only $160. And now here's the last condenser microphone of the bunch. This is the Elgato Wave 3. Now, the Wave 3 doesn't have the best build by any means, and in fact it's the most plasticky of the ones within its price range, and it's one of the smaller ones too. However, it does sound very good, and it does offer some customization for the audio through Elgato's own Wave software. You will find a single knob around the front that actually acts as a headphone gain knob, a microphone gain knob, and a mixing knob as well that you can customize within the software, which is actually pretty darn cool and it's rather unique. You will also find a capacitive mute switch on top, a headphone jack around the back, and a USB-C port as well. This microphone also retails for $160. And now here comes the first dynamic microphone of the bunch. This is going to be the Razer Siren Elite. This microphone is built mostly of metal and it's got some heft to it, but not really a ton. It's also not that large either, which a lot of people might prefer. Now, this microphone is addressed from the top like most dynamic microphones are, and has an LED ring to let you know when you're peaking. On the back, you will find a microphone gain knob, a headphone gain knob, a switch for triggering the high pass filter, and a micro USB port as well. But right next to that, you're also going to be getting a headphone jack. Now, this microphone retails for around $200, but you can usually find it for less. And lastly, here is the final microphone, which is also a dynamic microphone. This is the Shure MV7. This microphone is also addressed from the top, and it's got two configurations. It's got an XLR configuration and a USB configuration. With the USB config, you will get a capacitive slider for adjusting the microphone gain and headphone gain as well, but you can also mute the microphone directly if you wanted to. But on the back, you will find the headphone jack, the micro USB port, and XLR port as well, since this can also be used as an XLR microphone. This microphone is built very well and acts as the little brother to the Shure SM7B, the microphone I'm recording this entire segment with right now. And this microphone retails for $250. Okay, so right now we're going to start off the sound test with the Razer Siren Mini. So we're going to start from the cheapest microphone to the most expensive one that we have in this lineup, and I have to say that the Razer Siren Mini does sound pretty good in my opinion, and it might be a little bit difficult to see in frame because it is a really small microphone, but it's literally going to be right here. I'm speaking into it from a relative distance because this is how I believe it sounds the best. Like, I definitely would not keep this microphone up close or anything like that, though, well, right now I can't exactly hear what this microphone sounds like. I would say that when it comes to noise, it handles it okay, like outside noise, but when it comes to the sound quality itself, it is pretty darn good, I would say. Because it doesn't have a headphone jack, I can't monitor the audio by any means, so I'm kind of just going off of from previous recordings and from what I've heard before. So yeah, this is essentially what it sounds like to use a Razer Siren Mini from the desk with its stand from a distance, as it should be used in my opinion. And now this is what the HyperX Solocast is going to sound like. Now, I'm speaking into it directly while it being on the desk, and as you heard just now, it does pick up still a little bit of noise. So over here in this room, which is something that I did fail to mention actually a little bit earlier, is that I do have my computer fans over here that are making noise, and I do have my mini fridge over here that is also making a bit of noise. So any kind of noise that you get from this room, aside from my voice, of course, are going to be coming from those two things for the most part. So this is how each microphone is going to pick up that level of noise. I should have brought that up a little bit sooner, but this is essentially what we should expect from the HyperX Solocast in this instance, and I'm speaking into it while it's on its stand on my desk, and as you can tell, it's just a little bit taller than the Razer Siren Mini, and this is the kind of sound quality that you can expect out of a microphone that costs around $60 or so, though I have seen reports in other places where it ends up costing people considerably more for some reason. This microphone should not cost you more than $60. That's just what it's at MSRP, and you can find it on HyperX's website for $60 too, at least from the last time I checked. And I would say that this microphone sounds pretty good, definitely pretty good for the money, and this is what you should expect. So right now, I'm doing the next test with the Fifein K690, and this is what this microphone is going to sound like overall. This is going to be a pretty great microphone for the money. This microphone does retail for around $100. It is built incredibly well, but most importantly, since this is the sound test, you might be able to hear now, actually, more so the refrigerator and the back, or actually, most importantly, you might be hearing my PC fans and things like that. I'm speaking into it from the built-in stand that it comes with, and this is what it sounds like from a reasonable distance. I would say that this microphone is probably better, more so up close than anything, though the gain is set relatively high here. It's not clipping by any means, though. Also, another great thing here is that I can actually monitor the experience while speaking into this microphone, and the audio is going to be pretty accurate to what you're hearing back onto your headphones. So that is going to be one pretty awesome thing about this microphone, and in general, it is going to sound pretty great. And now this is what the Samsung GTrack Pro is going to sound like when you try to speak into it directly while it's standing on, well, its own stand. So now I do have a little bit more distance from it in comparison to how it was back when I reviewed it, and that was actually the same case for pretty much every microphone that I featured in this video, for the exception of the dynamic microphones that I'm going to be featuring just a little bit later. But this microphone is one of the best sounding ones in my opinion, and while I can definitely still hear a little bit of that pickup noise or that like coil whine coming from my open back headphones, it does still pick that up from this distance. It does still appear to be picking up a little bit of my PC fans, at the very least from what I'm hearing back in the monitoring. But from my experience, the monitoring experience in general with this microphone is usually pretty good as well. And granted, with all of these microphones, I will be recording in the cardioid settings, even for the ones that only come in the cardioid settings, obviously. But I would consider this microphone to be one of the best sounding ones, especially for the price. This microphone only retails for $130, and I would say that this sound is more than just acceptable, it's genuinely great. And now this is what the Blue Yeti X is going to sound like when you speak into it from a little bit of a distance, or a pretty reasonable distance, like if you're not speaking directly onto it, but more so like you have maybe about, I would say, 1 foot apart, like between me and the actual microphone, and it is standing on its own desk. I'm also monitoring the audio through these headphones, and because it is an open back pair of headphones, and this is my headphones fault actually, it's not the fault of any of the microphones that I'm testing here. It might be picking up a little bit of like squealing, I want to say, or like coil whine, but that's not inherent to the microphone at all. If you do hear that, by any means, it's just not going to be the case. However, in general, I would say that by default, the Blue Yeti X for $160 doesn't really sound that good to me, especially because it can be a little bit difficult to monitor the audio properly, and while this microphone doesn't really sound so bad, it definitely benefits from having that virtual EQ that actually comes from Blue themselves. And it is actually going to be very useful to use, and I use it every time that I have to use this microphone, because in my opinion, it does need it, at the very least for my voice, but I think it would benefit most people to try and give that equalizer a bit of a try, at the very least if you know how to tinker with audio by now. But this is what this microphone sounds like from this kind of distance, and this is what it sounds like with some PC fans over here, open Mac headphones, and my mini fridge over on that side. So this is what you should be expecting. And when it comes to monitoring, the experience isn't really that great, because the Blue Yeti gives you a cleaner monitoring experience than what you're actually speaking into the microphone, so it just doesn't sound accurate. I would not use this microphone for audio monitoring for those purposes, but I think that it sounds just fine. Now this is what the HyperX Quadcast S is going to sound like, and as you can see, this is going to be the most visually visible of them all, considering that it does have an array of RGBs going around it, and I did customize it to go from purple to pink to blue and back and forth like that, and that is that kind of customization that I think anybody can really appreciate. But with that said, I am speaking into it from its shock mount, from its built-in stand as well, and I am actually monitoring the audio. It all sounds incredibly clean, and usually the pickup is super clean too. I'm actually not hearing that it's picking up my computer fans by any means. I'm not hearing that it's picking up my mini fridge at all. To me, it all just sounds very clean and very good. So I would say that the HyperX Quadcast, even when it comes to its audio in general, and when it comes to its wonderful monitoring experience, does a very fantastic job. And that is even going to go for the original Quadcast too. Now this is what this microphone sounds like. This is going to be the Elgato Wave 3. I used to have the L1, but I actually sold it quite some time ago. And this microphone is honestly quite good, even for the money, I would say. At the very least sound-wise, and I do like the fact that it has a USB-C port. I do like the fact that it has its own custom pop filter and everything like that, which I am actually using with it since I already have it. However, even without it, it still handles plosives quite well, to be frank, so I can't really complain too much in that regard. I think that this microphone sound-wise does a very good job. It just mostly falters a bit when it comes to the build, if anything, if I had to choose anything. But I very much appreciate having those customization options available. And it looks like this microphone actually does pick up on the coil line that's coming from my open back headphones, which kind of annoying that it does that, but I guess that it can't be helped. Again, that's not really the fault of this microphone, it's really the fault of my headphones, of the fact that that I'm using open back headphones, or at least this pair in particular, with these microphones at all. So I'm using a pair of ATH 700AD, or AD700X I should say. Yeah, I would say that this microphone has always been a great performer. It sounds great, and the monitoring experience with this microphone has always been pretty accurate as well. And I love that there's actually software for you to make some customizations to it, like add compression, I believe, and you can even include a high pass filter as well if you really wanted to. Like, you do have options like that, and it is really nice to just have all of that available to you. And this microphone retails for $160, just like the Blue Yeti X and just like the HyperX Quadcast S. So yeah, I would say that this is going to be a great microphone, and you should really pick between the three just based on which microphone you like the sound of most. And now this is what the Razer Siren Elite is going to sound like. Now this is a dynamic microphone, a USB dynamic microphone, and this is the kind of sound that you can expect out of it, out of this particular microphone, that is, because this microphone has a particularly high noise floor, and I can immediately hear that on the monitoring aspect actually, since this microphone does have a headphone jack for you to be able to monitor the audio. I always appreciate having a headphone jack on any given microphone because it does really help out when it comes to monitoring the audio, and that is something that I really value. And that also tells me that this microphone has a very high noise floor that I have a pretty easy time hearing back, and you should be able to hear that as well. That was one of my biggest complaints during the review of this microphone, and if it didn't have that noise floor, I would say that this microphone actually sounds fairly decent. It can sound pretty good, but because of that high noise floor, it does make it a little bit more difficult to EQ or to just make it sound a little bit nicer, tries to get rid of that noise, because that kind of does mess with the audio quite a bit in my opinion. And it's also pretty easy to make this microphone peak, and every time that it peaks, the little LED ring around the middle does light up in red to let you know that you are peaking. However, again, like I said, it is very easy to make this microphone peak, and I'm sure that I'm not really getting the most accurate listen based from past experience, but I can hear that high noise floor. And right now, from what I'm hearing, this does remind me a lot of what I've heard from previous recordings regarding this microphone. So yeah, this is what this microphone sounds like, and it being a dynamic microphone, it should actually be doing a better job than the rest of the microphones at rejecting other noises around the room, things like my PC fans and my mini fridge over there. But that would be up to what you are listening back right now. So you will be able to know if it is indeed picking that up or not. I can't hear it through these headphones because the monitoring experience with these from my past experience hasn't been great because it rejects a lot of noise as you're hearing it back into your ears. But when you play it back on your computer to hear back what it was that you recorded, you can hear all of those noises usually, and that was pretty prevalent in my review. But this is what the Razer Siren Elite is going to sound like, and it retails again for $200. And now this is what the Shure MV7 is going to sound like. Now this is also going to be a USB dynamic microphone, though it also does have an XLR entry right on the back. And you might be asking yourself, why am I holding this with my hands? And it's because I do have a stand for it, but it currently has a smaller adapter attached to it that makes it impossible for me to attach it to that stand. So right now, unfortunately, that is kind of impossible to do. So I kind of have to do this by hand since it doesn't have a stand with feet or anything like that. But you can definitely see the controls right on top lighting up and things like that. Not that you can manage it. I do have the headphone volume all the way up, and it doesn't seem to be bothered at all by the fact that I'm wearing an open back pair of headphones. It's not picking that up at all. In fact, it seems to be doing a very good job at rejecting noise around me, and I think that this is a pretty fantastic dynamic microphone, even on the USB setting. This microphone just sounds very good. And now, I would do an XLR test. However, I'm not going to do it in this video because we're comparing USB microphones, though I do prefer to use this microphone in the XLR setting with my Go XLR or with any other audio interface. But if you do want to know more about how that would work, I would strongly recommend watching the full review of this microphone, which is going to be linked down in the description. But overall, the monitoring experience is pretty great. So in conclusion, I think I can pretty confidently say which microphones make sense for most people. So if you are on a super cheap budget, for example, then honestly get the Solocast if you can find it for just $60. It sounds great and it's built very nicely overall, and you probably don't care for audio monitoring anyway. But if you can't find it at its actual $60 price tag, then just get the Razer Siren Mini. This is a fantastic microphone that actually does stay at its regular price. Regularly, you can find it pretty much anywhere for just $50. But let's say that your budget is a little bit higher than that. Then the Fifein K690 for $100 is a really good microphone and is worth every penny from my test. However, the Samsung GTrack Pro is only $30 more and offers better everything, to say the least. To me, it is a significant upgrade for the GTrack Pro, but it does have a tendency of going out of stock, and if you can't find one, then I think that the Fifein K690 is a fantastic alternative without a doubt. And not to mention that you get great audio monitoring with both of them. And if your budget is even higher than that, you're probably looking at the Yeti X, Quadcast S, and Wave 3. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. In my opinion, the Yeti does look the best and sounds pretty good, but it can sound even better through the first-party EQ support, which I really appreciate having. The Quadcast S is also very beautiful and it sounds better than the Yeti X in my opinion by default, comes with a shock mount already, and it also offers a better monitoring experience in my opinion. I haven't really found the need to EQ it and sounds better than the Wave 3 as well. However, the Wave 3 has a lot of software support too, and even direct Stream Deck control, and I know that that is something that a lot of people will end up appreciating and flocking to. So that's the option that I would recommend or go for in general if you're using the Wave 3 as your main microphone and already own or plan to get a Stream Deck, whichever Stream Deck you end up going for. I actually use a Stream Deck XL, but I don't use the Wave with it. Otherwise, between the Quadcast S and the Yeti X, the Quadcast S wins for me, but the Yeti X is still pretty good. I'd say pick the one that you feel sounded better between the two. And lastly, the Razer Siren Elite is overpriced at $200 and even at around $120, and you can often find it for that price. I don't recommend it due to the high noise floor and deceptive monitoring. You just won't get the same results that are going into the microphone back onto your headphones until you play it back, and that's just unacceptable to me. And the Shure MV7 is pretty fantastic. However, you must have heard that weird glitch that I had earlier in the sound test, and I'm sure that it has to do with the bitrate that I was recording at, but you definitely heard an issue with the audio sample. This is not a common occurrence by any means, and it does not represent what that microphone is capable of at all, because it does actually sound very good in and of itself. However, I would only spend $250 on this microphone if you're eventually going to upgrade to an XLR interface, because you'll really get the most out of it as an XLR mic with tons of controls and customization. If you just need the best USB microphone that makes the most sense to buy, just use it as a USB mic. I would choose between the Samsung GTrack Pro and the Quadcast S, with the GTrack Pro having a better advantage due to its more detailed sound and amazing build quality overall. Like, if it was my money going into any of these and I only had a computer to plug it into, only a USB port, I would honestly ignore the Shure MV7 and just go straight for either the Quadcast S or the Samsung GTrack Pro, with the GTrack Pro being higher up on that list for me. And that is my verdict, essentially. So if you aren't interested in purchasing any of these microphones, then I'll be making sure to leave affiliate links down to Amazon in the description. But I'm also going to talk about 2 other services that will come in handy to you. Things like Luster, for instance, which is a service that actually helps you find sales. And if you install it, it is going to scour the web and then show you more so a hierarchy of some of the more popular microphones in this case. Like, if you're shopping for any kind of microphone, it'll show you some of the most popular options within that category. So it also gives you other alternatives in case of anything. And it'll tell you if there are any sales anywhere so that you can get the best price wherever you can. Link to that down below. But if you would rather just be able to finance it, where you don't need a credit card at all, but you might find your favorite microphone out of this bunch to be a little bit out of your price range right now, and financing could come in handy, then I totally understand you going in that direction. So with that said, for that, there is going to be ABUNDA, where you don't need a credit card at all for doing financing, and they just let you pay for it over time. It's the easiest way of financing it without hurting your wallet all so much. So with that said, links to that down below as well. If you use any of these links, you're helping out the channel quite a bit, so I would appreciate that quite a bit. Also, do make sure to stop by the Tech Summit podcast, where I actually record the podcast with the Rode PodMic, not with the Shure SM7B or any of the microphones that I talked about. Links to that are going to be down below. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitch, because I do like to stream there every Friday and Saturday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time. Also, make sure to follow me on the rest of my social media, like my Instagram and my Twitter. With that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be seeing you all later. Enjoy.